Hello, friends, and greetings to you on this Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm standing here recording this message in our memorial garden, which is holy ground for us and our community. This small patch of land connects us to our ancestors, those who have gone before us in the life of faith. It's a sacred space that we have set apart for us to come into and to remember our connection to the wider communion of saints that transcends space and time. We, however, are not the first people to consider this land sacred. Our memorial garden, indeed our whole church, is set upon the unceded land of Indigenous peoples, most likely here in Bedford, the Massachusetts and the Pawtucket tribes. The colonial history of eastern Massachusetts teaches us that many members of these and other tribes were dispossessed of their lands in the 17th and 18th centuries. We also know that the justification for this land theft that colonists created for themselves often was rooted in theologies of Christian supremacy. Specifically, the belief that our Christian forebearers' faith in Jesus made them more deserving of God's blessings, including the blessings of the land, than non-Christian indigenous people. Biblical stories, such as the Hebrew people driving out the Canaanite tribes from Palestine, were often invoked to justify the taking of indigenous land by white colonists, and to justify a level of violence which, frankly, could be fairly described as genocide. Part of the reason that I feel so strongly about naming and rejecting this kind of Christian supremacy is because my own ancestors participated in it. Through some family history, I know that I have 17th century relatives who lived just east of here in what is now Wakefield. At one point, they moved west to the Framingham Natick area and attempted to establish a settlement on indigenous lands. Their settlement was attacked frequently, and they ultimately gave up and went back to Wakefield after several colonists were killed. Records don't indicate how many indigenous people were also killed in that skirmish. Learning something of my own connection to this history is just one step in a long journey that we all are on to heal from our nation's colonialist conquest of this land. It doesn't make me feel particularly guilty to know about this history, but it does remind me that I am connected to it, and also connected to the legacies of poverty, victimization, and marginalization that many indigenous people have experienced in the centuries since and today. We often think of indigenous people only as part of our history, but it's so important for us to remember that indigenous people are part of the present too. The Massachusetts tribe exists today. So do many others in this country, supporting their members in many ways and advocating for ongoing truth-telling, justice, and healing in local communities, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and in our nation. Perhaps the next step for me is coming to learn more about the present-day indigenous life in our region, and for all of us to recognize the blessing that our indigenous neighbors are to God and to us.